What's up, YouTube? Today's video is the games I picked up during the month of August 2016. And this month I did quite a bit of travel for work to some places I hadn't been before, which was definitely cool for new game stores to hit. The big one of those was Denver, Colorado. I had never really been before, and was really surprised by the quality of stuff that I found in the stores. Not only that, but the prices were actually good, which for a major city, that's really unusual in this state and age. So for those of you, if I have any fans that live in Denver, you guys are pretty fortunate for getting some decent deals, it seems like, based on my quick 2-day visit to the city. So that was interesting. I also spent some time in Tulsa, Oklahoma this month, and I'd been there before, but definitely a good city for game hunting too. And other than that, just a lot of stuff around my home base and some stuff in Illinois that I hit. So with that all said, let's go ahead and get started. And if you've been watching my recent videos, you know that they are very heavy on PS1 games. And this video is going to be very much like that because that's probably my #1 interest right now. PS1 collecting is really starting to take off, it seems like. I've noticed the prices take a big jump just in the summer. And unfortunately, my local store chain that I'd been kind of exploiting for lots of PS1 deals somehow wised up and basically like tripled their PS1 prices overnight across the board. So really unfortunate, but a lot of the stuff I got was pre-price hike, and hopefully I can still find stuff in other stores. But I kind of feel like one of my main resources just got knocked out. So anyway, enough introduction. Let's go ahead and talk about some games. So the very first thing I'm going to show you for the PS1 is something that is extremely cool. I don't know why I waited so long to get this. The game itself is probably not going to wow you. This is just arcade classics, arcade greatest hits, the Atari Collection 2. Very common compilation for the system, not really incredibly hard to find. However, there is a very cool accessory that I got to play this with this month, and this is the trackball controller for the PS1. So I don't know if you've ever seen one of these before, but it's a very awkward looking controller that actually works very well. This is the Nyko Classic Trackball. And why I wanted this is because 2 of the classic arcade games were trackball games on this set. Main one being Marble Madness, and the other one being Crystal Castles. So with this and this, you get a very close to the arcade experience. I will say the classic trackball has this incredibly cheesy graphics around here. I might even peel it off just because it's so ugly. But as far as the trackball itself, it controls very well. My understanding is if the game supports the mouse, it also supports this, so I need to kind of try some of my Arkanoid clone style games and see how they do with this. But for playing Marble Madness, this is awesome. So not a very expensive accessory, definitely uncommon. I had to buy it on eBay because I couldn't find it locally. But if you want something different for your PS1, check out the trackball controller. So that was the one game I got that really exploited the use of that. The next game I got, and for my European fans, you're going to say, this game is dirt common, what the heck are you talking about? It is ISS Pro Evolution. This is the second or third International Superstar Soccer game for the PS1. And I would say if you had to pick a list of top 10 rarest PS1 games, this should be in it. This game is incredibly hard to find in the US, and I know it is dirt common in Japan and Europe, but for some reason, Americans have no idea what soccer is, so yeah, they didn't buy this game at all. My understanding is it's a pretty good game. This is probably the best series of soccer games there is, and looking forward to actually trying it out. But I definitely, I had to pay a pretty penny for this, but I know I never, ever, ever see this game, so I just went ahead and grabbed it. It's one of those games that's almost too rare for eBay. So that said, ISS. This next game has incredibly creepy cover art, and that's basically why I bought it, and that is Tunnel B1. I have this game on the Sega Saturn already, but just take a look at that Photoshop mastery that Acclaim whipped out for us there. So, yeah, why I wanted it. This next one's a game that I thought I had on the PS1. Apparently I just had the Saturn version and didn't realize it, so that is Mega Man 8. Much more common game on the PlayStation than on the Saturn. It actually got several re-releases. I think this is like the first re-release of it that's still considered Black Label. But nice to have another Mega Man game for the PS1. I think I've almost got them all now, with the exception of the super expensive Trombone. This next game is one that I've been looking for a really long time for PlayStation. This is Carnage Heart. This is another one of the super bizarre art dink developed games for the PS1. And what I think is kind of unique about this is it comes in this giant case, mainly because it has 2 huge manuals to play the game. It's an incredibly complex strategy game, and probably not something I'm going to spend the time to get to know how to play. One of the discs in this game is just a tutorial disc. I mean, it is that complicated. So, very interesting and definitely an obscure game for the PS1. This next one I got very cheap. This is Battle Sport. This is a very under-the-radar, rare game for the Saturn. For those that went for a full Saturn set like I did, that game is incredibly challenging to find. I don't see the PS1 version very often either. It doesn't go for anywhere near as much as the Saturn version, but I think as people are starting to go for full PS1 sets, they'll probably realize this game's a little difficult to get to. Basically just a crappy future sports game that originated on the 3DO, so nothing really essential to play. Speaking of future sports games, this is another one of those. This is Professional Underground League of Pain. Another just oddball future sports game you don't see too often. I just had to grab it. This next one is a rebuy. This is a game I owned when it first came out, and I beat it, so I got rid of it back then. That is Crash 2, Cortex Strikes Back. This is the copy I was holding out to get with the refractive cover or whatever, if you can see that, I don't know. But yeah, very classic game. I don't really know why I sold my original copy. It was kind of stupid, so nice to have it back. Next one is a game that a lot of people love, and I've never really got into this series. This is Twisted Metal 2. Just decided to get it because it's a nice, very clean copy of this game, and starting to dry up too, it seems like, in the original print. Kind of chasing after all the light gun games on the PS1. This is one that I don't know, for some reason it should be very obvious that this is a light gun game. This is Gunfighter: The Legend of Jesse James. I always just thought it was some kind of like first-person shooter based on the cover, so I'd never even bothered to look at the back of it. But full GunCon support, so definitely, looking forward to trying this. I doubt it's very special. It might have even been a budget title, I can't remember. So, nice to get another light gun game off the list. This next game is another rebuy. This game is incredibly difficult to find, even back when I had it the first time. This is Poi Poi. This is a very unusual Konami party game, and maybe I just didn't play it with any friends, so that's why I decided to get rid of it the first time. It kind of sucks on one player, but it does support up to 4 people, so definitely a unique entry in the PS1 library that, you get a 4-player party game. I don't think there's really a whole lot of those on this system, so nice to have that back. Next one's another one of those ones that has the reflective cover thing going on. This is Spyro Year of the Dragon. Basically upgraded my other copy of it that didn't have the special cover crap on it, and decided to rebuy it with this so I could sell my other copy. Then I got Ace Combat 2. This game was very popular for a short time, I think, when it first came out, and kind of lost now. There are 3 Ace Combat games on the systems, and this one was probably considered the best. And the next one is Auto Destruct. This game I don't really know a whole lot about, other than it looks kind of like Felony 1179, so just a drive around, smash everything up type of game. Might be okay, I don't know, I'm hoping to put some time into it. So that's the bulk of my PS1 pickups. However, there are more PS1 pickups because, like I said, I'm kind of addicted to buying games for it right now. So the next stack is all stuff that is part of a subset that I'm kind of going for, and that is the Black Label jewel case reissues of the big box games. Not all the big box games got a jewel case release, or at least a Black Label jewel case release. So I've made a list of those that I need. I figured out there's like 38 more I need to have the set. I would say of those, probably about 3 or 4 are going to be absolute bears to get, but I think it's going to be fun to chase after them. So I'm going to run through a few of these. I do like, I don't know, like the big art is cool in the big boxes, but I kind of like the jewel box versions just because they look really nice too. So first one of these is Johnny Bazooka Tone. This is a game that I also have on the Saturn, so probably won't be playing the PlayStation one too much. Next one is the original Gex. This one is, a very popular game for the PS1. You just don't see the jewel case version all that often. Then we have Battle Arena Toshiden. This was, the pack-in game with the PS1 for a while. And one thing I noticed about this is not only is it a jewel case variant, but it's kind of another variant on top of that. So what was very strange is Sony packed this game in with the systems for a short time. And on the bottom here, it would say not for resale, but it still had a barcode on the back, which is kind of weird. And for some reason, this is like a we printed too many pack-ins, but we still want to sell some of the inventory version, so they just stuck a sticker on top of that that says 1 or 2 players. Weird, I don't know. And then what's even stranger is even the disc was printed with not for resale, and then they put another sticker on the disc, even using the disc color that says 1 or 2 players to cover it up, so they could sell these. So I don't know how rare or anything this is, but it just caught my eye as that's really strange. It has all the stickers on it. I thought like a store had put those on. So came to find out this is an official variant, so kind of interesting. Then we have Warhawk, very popular game in the long box, but I hardly ever see this in jewel case in a non-greatest hits version, so nice to have that. Another one is Loaded. This one seems to be a little bit more common. Then we have the original Wipeout. Very difficult to find the jewel case non-greatest hits version of this one, in my opinion. I always liked this series, so very cool to have this. And then we have Magic Carpet, another one I just don't see real often, either in the long box or the jewel case. I think this one was just pretty unpopular all around. And the last one of these is Shell Shock. This game also came out on the Saturn, so I've played that version before and it kind of sucks, so I probably won't be playing this one. So, are you worn out with PS1 stuff yet? Okay, so I have one more to show you and then we'll move on. I also grabbed a long box version of Air Combat. I don't really know why, because I bought the jewel case version that I was looking for a few months ago. So, yeah, just another long box to add to my filling shelf. So, that is all the PS1 stuff, amazingly. So let's move on to some other systems. I guarantee it's going to go a lot quicker from here. So the only game I got for the PS2 is this. This is Hidden Invasion. And this one interested me because I've been kind of collecting this developer. Their name is Toka, and they also were known as Hyper Dev Box, and I think they had another name too. They've changed their name several times. If you've ever played the obscure beat-em-up Legend on the Super Nintendo, this is the same guys that developed this. It's 2 Frenchmen who basically like developed games from scratch with a very small team. And this was... if you've seen any interviews with those guys, they interest me because they said, like, they want all their games to play like classic Sega arcade games. That's, like, their #1 influence, which I'm fully on board with. So this was their attempt at making something like Dynamite Cop. Very interesting. I mean, it has very short arcade-style levels with, like, arcadey graphics and everything like that. The one thing I will say about this game is the camera is absolutely horrible. So I wanted to like this more, but I struggled with it just because the camera is almost unplayable. But yeah, if you want a short, quick arcade-style beat-em-up for the PS2, which there's really not a whole lot of, this one's worth picking up. And very, very cheap. That game's like $2 or $3. Then we'll talk about some games for other Sony systems. So I got one game for the PS3. This is one that's been on my list for a while. Haven't had a chance to play it yet. This is the Dengeki Bunko Fighting Climax. I probably butchered that title. My understanding is it's got a bunch of anime characters in a fighting game, which doesn't really interest me. However, they're on classic Sega-style backgrounds for the stages. So that's the part that was kind of perked my interest, and I wanted to try this. So late release for the PS3. I don't really know if they sold a whole lot of those. Got a couple games for the PSP. First one of these is Undead Nights by Tecmo. Don't really know much about this, but it just looked kind of interesting. When I found this, it was actually sealed, but the seal was like totally beat up, so I just decided to open it up. And very nice condition, obviously, because everything else was brand new underneath the rubbish seal that had, been worn out from being in stores for years. The other game I got for the PSP, and this is another game that was developed by Toka, that's why I wanted it. Haven't played this one yet, but I think it's kind of funny. This is Pocket Pool. So yeah, I'm going to go play some Pocket Pool. See you guys later. I don't understand this at all. It's like a soft porn pool game. So like you beat the stages and you get like a tantalizing picture or something like that. It's kind of an odd release. I don't really think they made money of these, and I've noticed this game is actually starting to go up in price because it's pretty obscure, and it does have a mature rating, so, if you want something risque for your PSP that you can play on the go, if you want to play Pocket Pool on the subway, there's your chance. So, that's all for Sony systems. I have one game to show you for TurboGrafx 16, and that is Bloody Wolf. This is a game I've loved for years. I just had a HuCard-only copy of it and decided to finally upgrade it. Just a very classic, run-and-gun style overhead game, and always liked this game. Talking about some Sega systems next, I got one game for the Game Gear. This is Space Harrier. I don't see this one real often, and kind of caught my eye in a store. I was like, oh, I don't think I have that, so decided to grab it. I'm not really expecting a whole lot. It's probably just the Master System game brought to the Game Gear. And I got one game for the Genesis. This game's probably going to surprise you that I have never owned this in my life, and that is Sonic and Knuckles. I got a nice complete copy of this and decided to go for it. I've never really been the biggest Sonic fan, but this is one that I figure is probably still worth owning, so nice to get it, and I know these cardboard box games are kind of difficult to find in anything approaching decent condition, so decided to go for it. I got one game for the Sega CD. This is actually probably one of the rarer games on the system. I don't really think it's had a huge price hike yet, but I know this is very difficult to find, and that is NFL Football Trivia Challenge. This is one of those Sega CD games that's like, wow, you could do that with a phone app these days. There's really absolutely no reason to play something like that. But yeah, it existed, and very obscure title for the Sega CD. So next I'll talk about some games for the Sega Master System, and I actually had a really good month finding stuff for that this month. The first thing I'll show you is an accessory, and it is a Sega Light Phaser, and you're saying, why would you buy a Sega Light Gun? You probably should have owned one of those by now if you've been into the Master System. And I did, but then I found this. This is a variant of the Sega Light Phaser that came out late in the system's life to make it more safety, because this thing obviously looks like a real gun. I guess if this was like the year 2055 maybe, and science fiction stories held true, but they must have had some kind of legal, issues with the original design of the gun, so they had to put an orange tip on it to make it legal, I guess, or whatever, for future sale at that point. So this variant of the gun is actually very difficult to find. This is the only one I've ever seen in a store, and it's interesting because they hand-painted the tip. I mean, it's not even like a snap-on piece or anything like that, so the painting is very crude, and my understanding is they're all like that. I think just like it makes it kind of interesting. So definitely an interesting version of the Light Phaser that you don't see too often. Then I got some games for the Master System, and this is a system I hardly ever find stuff for, so it was weird that I found a decent stash this month. This first one of these, Captain Silver, I fell in love with this game. This is a lot of fun. This is a very obscure Data East game that started in the arcade. I've watched some video of the arcade version, and this is actually a very loose translation that they made for the Master System. They took a lot of liberties with it, and actually I like the pace of the Master System version better based on what I saw. The arcade version seems like it moves too fast to even fully enjoy it. This is kind of a very methodical, 2D side-scroller, and some really odd imagery, which Data East has always been known for, but very recommended. I played this game for a couple hours, I would say, the first time I sat down with it this month, so definitely really enjoyed it and was very surprised. Next one I got was Bomber Raid. This is one of the few shooters for the system, and this is also interesting because it's one of the Activision releases that came in the black case, which is very unusual considering most of the Master System games came in the white cases. Very average shooter. I think Sega actually did develop this game and just did decide not to publish it in the US, so it's okay, but man, the slowdown in this is terrible. Like, even on the first boss, this game slows down incredibly, so I just feel like the game must have been rushed, needed more testing. It probably would have been okay. Next one is a light gun game. This is Rambo 3. I have not played this yet, but I guess I can try out my new phaser with it. Then I got Vigilante. This is a port of the classic Irem arcade game. I already own this on the TurboGrafx 16, so this version I don't expect to be any good as far as quality compared to that version, but what I really like about it is the cover art of this one. I think it's pretty awesome. The other thing I should point out about some of these Master System games is some of these are the very late issue reissues of these that had the Sega for the 90s stickers on the back to cover up the Tonka information. So I guess Sega took back their rights over Tonka, who was originally doing this stuff, and instead of reissuing the games, they just put stickers on top of them. So they put the one sticker on the back of the game, they put one on the cartridges at the top corner, and they even put a sticker on the back of the manual, which I thought was interesting. So really just did not want Tonka to get any credit for, publishing these games anymore at that point. So these, I don't really know if anyone really collects the Sega for the 90s versions, but I think they were kind of interesting. Next one I got is Rescue Mission. This is another light phaser game. Just haven't played this one yet. Then I got a classic Sega arcade game that is very obscure. I know one arcade that had this game, and I really enjoyed it. This is Quartet. There is also a Quartet collection for the Sega Japanese PS2 that I have, and just a really underrated classic Sega game. I don't know, maybe people will wake up to this one someday, but it never got any ports for other systems until the PS2, so I guess it just kind of went under the radar. And the last thing I got is an upgrade to a complete copy, and that is of Penguin Land. This is a really fun action puzzle game that it gets devilishly hard incredibly quick. That is the one downside of this game. It looks so cute and cuddly, and it will kick your ass in a moment. It is a very, very difficult game. But I really like the artwork on it and decided I wanted a complete copy, so I went ahead and upgraded that. Alright, so that is all the Sega System stuff I got this month. I have one game for the original Xbox. This was one of my Denver finds. This is one of those games you always see on rare Xbox games lists, and I don't see it very often. This is the IHRA Drag Racing Sportsman Edition, and it's the Sportsman Edition that's the rare one. This was like $2, so I just decided to grab it. It goes for a lot more than that. Probably not something I'm going to play, but definitely I'm interested at that price. So nice to have that for just another rare original Xbox game. And then I got some stuff for the NES for some upgrades to complete copies this month. And a few of these are some of my all-time favorite NES games, so I was very happy to get nice box copies of these games. First one of those is Worm, Journey to the Center of the Earth. This game is completely underrated for the NES. It's a mix of shooter, action platformer, and a little bit of strategy game. It has like multiple things going on within different levels, and a lot of fun. It has some little animated cutscenes too. Very, very cool game, and I think this is highly underrated. Nice to have it complete too. I got a complete copy of Jeopardy! Nothing too exciting there, but my friend had this growing up, and we played it so much that we memorized every single answer. Notice I said answer, not question. So I could tell you everything to beat this game here in probably about 2 minutes. But yeah, nice to have another game from my childhood complete. This next one is another upgrade. This is one that I had complete, but the box I had was just destroyed, and I got a really nice box for the original Ninja Gaiden, which is easily in my top 5 favorite NES games of all time, so really nice to have that. Another great NES game that I was happy to upgrade to complete is Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse. I've always loved this game, just never had the box for it, so very nice to get that. And the last one of these is Chip 'n Dale's Rescue Rangers. Most of these Disney Capcom games are considered classics. This one I really just didn't really care for as much as some of the others, but I know this one has its fans, so nice to get a complete copy of that as well. Then we'll talk about some boxes I got for the Super Nintendo. And first couple of these, I already had the carts, so these are just boxes. They're in pretty ratty shape, but I got them really cheap. First one of these is for Ys 3, Wanderers from Ys. And, you know, not the best version of this game on the Super Nintendo, but just nice to have the box. I think it's pretty cool looking at least. Then I got a box for UN Squadron, classic shooter. And it's a little sun-faded, but, you know, just nice to have it. And then the last one of these, I got a very nice complete copy of this. Didn't realize this is like incredibly rare until I got it home and looked it up. I had it loose, so now I'm just upgrading to this, but that is for the original Super Bomberman. And what I found out about this game is there were several different variants of this game. There was a big box version of this that came with a multi-tap, and then there was a small box version that was just the game itself. The big box version you see on eBay very often, and it goes for a ton of money as if it's like the super difficult version to find. But look up the small box version. You won't even find it on there. You might find one completed listing. So my understanding is this is very, very uncommon. The manual for it is interestingly only in black and white, just like the big box one was. But there's even some variants to the artwork from the big box version that this one only has. So I don't know what the whole story is on this, why it's such a unique release. I mean, it has cool artwork nonetheless, and I love Hudson Soft Games, so nice to have it, and thanks for nerding out with me for a minute about the details. I got one game for the N64 this month. This is one I've been trying to get complete for the last few months and kind of just gave up. So I just got a cheap card-only copy of Mischief Makers. I wanted this game because it's a treasure release, and really this is about the last game I really wanted for the N64. I'm kind of just done with that system and have been for some time. I got one game for the Nintendo GameCube. This is Tales of Symphonia. Very common game. I see it all the time. Just finally found one cheap enough that I decided to grab it. And then I got one game for the Wii, and this is another very cheap game. This is Counterforce, another game that was related to that developer Toka I was talking about earlier, so I decided to grab it. Haven't played this one yet, but I understand it has some very interesting control, and again, classic arcade-style gameplay, so was up my alley on that. Almost done, and I've got some portable games to show you, and then just a couple magazines that I got. So I got some games for the original Game Boy this month, nothing real exciting. FIFA 96. One thing I will say is the Game Boy sports games are all kind of uncommon. You don't really see a whole lot of them. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, or Bill and Ted's Excellent Game Boy Adventure, excuse me. They've got that in the title there. Muhammad Ali Heavyweight Boxing. Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. This one I was actually really wanting. This is Legend of the River King Game Boy. This game seems like it's way more easy to find in the Game Boy Color variant, but the black and white Game Boy version is a little difficult to find. And then I got Lost World Jurassic Park. So nothing too exciting there. I'm still hem-hawing about whether to go for the full set of original Game Boy or not. I'm more than halfway there, but I'm kind of just losing interest in it. Then I got some games for the Game Boy Color. This first one I hardly ever see, that's why I grabbed it. This is International Rally by Konami, and very interested in playing this one soon. Then I got Legend of Zelda, Link to the Past, or not Link to the Past, Link's Awakening, DX. I had Link's Awakening and have for many years, just never bought this enhanced version, so might give that a shot. And then finally for Game Boy Color I got Spawn, another game I just don't see a whole lot. I got one game for the Game Boy Advance. This one's complete. It's Mega Man Zero 2. I do have the Mega Man Zero collection for DS, but I just decided to grab this because it was cheap and it was complete. Very nice looking artwork on the box. And then I got one game for the DS. This is Tokyo Beatdown. This is an Atlas release. I thought I had this game, actually. I just bought it because it was so cheap. I got home and realized, oh, I didn't have it. But I've been looking for this, or looking at this game for several years. And seems like something I would be interested in. So definitely want to try it. It was developed by Success, and a lot of their stuff's pretty cool. So hopefully it'll be decent. The last thing I want to show you guys this month is some magazines I got. And the first one of these was the very first issue of EGM2. This one, you know, I'm not crazy about EGM2 because it's mostly like a codes and cheats magazine, but just decided to grab this because, you know, issue 1s are always kind of difficult to come by for video game mags. I got one EGM magazine from the mid-90s. This is has Street Fighter 3 on the cover. One thing you notice about these is they had like phone book size magazines at the time. It's really cool. Then they obviously went down to the pamphlets that game magazines are today. And the last one of these I got is easily the most interesting. This was a very short-lived magazine called Flux that covered video games, comic books, and alternative music of the mid-90s. It only lasted 7 issues, and I think even by issue 4 they knocked the music out and it was just video games and comics. But very interesting. It was a little bit edgy in its writing. They teach you things like how to make a fake ID and how to like blow up the toilets at your school and all kinds of like antisocial behavior like that. But then they also had, you know, interviews with the Beastie Boys and Danzig, but also really weird game reviews, and I don't know, it was like the 90s in a blender basically into this magazine, so I'm totally on board with it. This was issue 1, and you know, very difficult to find. I actually think I might track down the other ones just because it kind of interests me. I didn't even know this existed back when I was a teenager, but I probably would have been very interested in this at the time. So I always like reading old game magazines, you know, especially the ones that are a little bit more out there from like Nintendo Power. So definitely a fun read to go through some of those. So that about does it. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you don't like the PS1, you probably were bored to tears, or you turned this off a long time ago. So if you watched till the end, why don't you comment in the comment bar that the PS1 is awesome, because we all know it is. So anyway, have a great day or night wherever you are, and I will talk to you soon. Thank you.